Hey guys, welcome back to the Music Hole. My name is Cole, and today we're talking about one of the most unique sounding albums I've ever heard. It's called Merriweather Post Pavilion from 2009 by Animal Collective. They're just a really experimental group, lots of electronics, heavy on production, almost impossible to describe, to be honest. But there's a little bit of the Beach Boys in this act, a little bit. But it's just very production heavy. Again, it's really unique. But the album as a whole is actually pretty wonderful in the sense that thematically, it's basically about at least one of the members in the band and how he's describing his life such that he wants to be an artist. He has that desire to create. But as he mentions over and over in these songs, he's not necessarily concerned about being famous or about being rich. He just wants to provide for his family and create art. So that's kind of just his main goals. So thematically, it's a pretty cool album, as we'll discuss with the lyrics. So yeah, I just hope you guys enjoy it or find it interesting. But anyway, as always, I've got a bunch of clips lined up for you guys. So let's jump right in.
If I could just leave my body for a night.
Yeah, so track one is In the Flowers, and I just love the lyrics on this song because essentially our guy is with a woman, they might be married probably, and he's living the musician life, so to speak. So he's out on the road all the time, as he says. But now he's with this lady, and it even sounds like they're dancing to one of his songs that he made. So they're having this wonderful time together, and his wife is like, oh, I like this song, which clearly makes him feel good, I would imagine. But he just he misses his lady. He's appreciating this moment, and he feels selfish, as he says, because by wanting to be a musician and tour and stuff, you're sacrificing a lot, which he kind of interprets as being selfish. But it just kind of is what it is. It's just the way it works for an artist. But that's all I really have to say about this song. I mean, it kind of begins very slowly, and then it eventually explodes into what you heard on the clip. So I didn't want to play like a minute and 30 seconds of it slowly building up. So I just clipped this for you guys. It's my favorite part of the song anyway. But anyway, that's track number one. Track number two is an absolute monster. It's called My Girls. It's probably like a top 5 indie song from the 2000s, in my opinion, at least. It's definitely up there. And by the way, I highly recommend the music video for it. It's really trippy. It's really cool. But anyway, so let's dive in to My Girls.
I don't mean to seem like I care about material things, like a social stats. I just want 4 walls and Adobe slats for my girls. I don't mean to seem like I care about material things, like a social stats. I just want 4 walls and Adobe slats for my girls. There isn't much
I mean, oh my goodness, this song gives me goosebumps like every time I listen to it. It's just so memorable and it's so different. I mean, it's really hard to describe it without just playing it for you guys. And it's just a really wonderful song lyrically, because again, as I mentioned earlier, you know, this guy just has this desire to create art. He loves being a musician, but he doesn't necessarily care, as he says, about being a celebrity or having a lot of money. He just wants to provide for his family. You know, that's the only goal he has, as he says. You know, I just want 4 adobe slabs, I think he says, 4 walls and adobe slabs for my girls. So, you know, it sounds like he's married and he's got a girl. You know, he's got a kid who's a girl. So he just wants to provide for them. That's all he wants. You know, if he gets successful, like, you know, it is what it is. He's not terribly concerned about it. Although I will say, so this is the most commercial sounding Animal Collective album, in my opinion. And I get the feeling from this band, from their other albums, that they clearly have the ability to write amazing pop songs, but they choose not to. It kind of feels that way. You know, they finally chose to do it on this album. But I really get the sense from the band as a whole that they just love to experiment with sounds. You know, he loves to be creative and abstract and all these things. So it makes sense for these lyrics, because he's not actively chasing fame, right? He just so happens to be doing it a little bit on this album in terms of it being like more accessible than their other albums. But anyway, that's an aside. Again, a great song, my favorite song on the album, probably. But track 3 is also really interesting. It's called Also Frightened, so let's check it out.
Just like they're dreaming. Will it be just like I'm dreaming? When influence is threatened, maybe I should let them. Maybe we should let them. And I have a question. Are you also frightened? Are you also frightened? Are you also frightened? Are you also frightened?
Yeah, so Also Frightened is, again, just a really cool song sonically. But it's kind of continuing the story of the previous 2 songs in the sense that, like, this guy sounds like, you know, he's probably getting a little bit successful. And as he says, like, is it like I'm dreaming? Will it be just like I'm dreaming? You know, because it's kind of like surreal to him that, you know, he's doing the art that he wants to do, but at the same time, tons of people are responding really positively to it. So it's kind of like he's in a dream. Like, is this really happening? You know? And then as he says later on, you know, are you also frightened? So it sounds like on some level this guy is scared of fame. You know, we've already established he just wants 4 walls and adobe slabs for his girls. So like he's kind of wrestling with the fact that, like, okay, if he does a really good job with the music, then he's going to get famous, and maybe he's not really ready to be a celebrity, and it probably sounds like he doesn't want to be someone who everyone recognizes. You know, and as I mentioned in the last track, I mean, all the albums after this album are pretty inaccessible. You know, they're not very poppy. They're kind of dense and hard to listen to. So I get the feeling that this guy, or maybe the band as a whole, really struggles with fame. They don't really want to be, you know, household names. They just want to do weird art and music, but they don't want to be, they want to maintain their ability to go anywhere and not get recognized, which I totally get, you know. So this poor guy, he just wants to make music, but he also wants to have he wants to be like a fly in the wall when he goes somewhere, so to speak. So anyway, that's all I have to say about this song. It's a really cool song, again. But track 4 is another favorite. It's another monster. My second favorite song from the album. It's just so memorable. It's called Summertime Clothes. So let's check it out.
Sweet summer night and I'm stripped to my sheets. 4 minutes leak and my AC squeaks. And a voice from the clock says you're not gonna get tired. My bed is a pool and the walls on fire. I soak my head in the sink for a while. Chills in my neck and it makes me smile. But my bones have to move and my skin's gotta breathe. You pick up the phone and I'm so relieved. You slide down your stairs to the heat is street and the sun is left us with slippery feet. And I want to walk around with you. And I want to walk around with you and be here with you.
Yeah, Summertime Clothes just has such amazing hooks on it. It's just so addicting and memorable. Oh my goodness. But the song seems to be about, let's call our main character Joe, because we don't know his name. So Joe is with this woman in the first couple songs. They're married and they have a kid. And Summertime Clothes appears to be about their romance together before they got married. And so our guy, he's struggling during the summertime. It's really, really hot. He's probably in LA or something. And he can't sleep, right, as he says. So he picks up the phone and he calls his girlfriend. And he's like, I can't sleep. Let's just like do something, So yeah, I mean, it's just kind of like a romantic little thing that happens where it's probably like 3 a.m. and they love each other so much that the woman is willing to, have this 3 a.m. adventure with her boyfriend. So it's kind of a lovely song. But mostly, as I said, just an amazingly hook-filled song. I mean, it's really hard to describe. It's very electronic. It's very just experimental, like most of the album. But probably my second favorite song. Sometimes my favorite, depending on my mood that day. But anyway, that's all I have to say about it. So let's move on to number 5, which is called Daily Routine. So that's Daily Routine, which is slightly humorous in the sense that like he's literally just talking about his day-to-day life with his wife and kids. He wakes up, but I guess he like puts the snooze on for a few minutes, and then he finally gets up, and then he gets his kid, he feeds his kid, puts on the jacket, and then takes his kid to school, I guess, right? So like literally the song is just about his day-to-day business. Like there's no flash involved. I mean, it's such a strange album in the sense that like there's so much flashy production on this album. It's so experimental and crazy, but all he's talking about is this really simple stuff. Like, I just want 4 walls and an adobe slab. I just want to share my daily life, my daily boring life with you guys. Like, I don't want to talk about anything super crazy. So it's a little humorous in that way for me, personally. But anyway, another really cool song, really interesting. but not much else to say about it. So let's move on to number 6, which is called Bluish. Yeah, Bluish is an interesting song. I mean, it sounds like, on one hand, it's a very romantic moment. He's with his lady, right? And he's lost in her curls, as he says, and they're being intimate a little bit. They're holding each other. But then at the same time, he's admitting to us that he's kind of a masochist, that he likes it when she yells at him, and she likes it when he scratches him or hurts him a little bit. So it sounds like he's into masochism, So I thought that was kind of funny. But again, he's letting us into his romance, his life with his lady. And he's going to talk about all the boring stuff, and he's going to talk about all the secret stuff. So it's really interesting. I like this album lyrically, but also, again, I mean, clearly, like, this album feels like it came from another universe. It's just so experimental. But anyway, that's all I have to say about Bluish. So let's move on to track 7, which is called Guy's Eyes. Guy's eyes. All right. Our guy is very clearly in love with this woman, and it sounds like he's on the road, but while he's on the road, he's just constantly thinking about his wife and just how badly he wants to be intimate with her, but as he says, he's keeping it locked right now. He wants to show his girl how much he wants her, but at the same time, he's on the road and she's like probably really horny. Right? It sounds like he's really horny. And he's trying his best not to purge the urge, as he says. So maybe he's tempted by, like, let's say roadies, for example, or not roadies, girls, girls that go to concerts and they want to sleep with the band members. So it sounds like he's got a lot of opportunities to cheat on his wife, and he's like kind of tempted. But he's so in love with her that he resists all the temptation So he's a good guy. This guy is a good husband, you know. Thumbs up to this guy. I like him. But that's all I have to say about Guy's Eyes. So let's move on to track 8, which is called Taste. Yeah, he's going deep on taste. I mean, he's getting philosophical, right? He's asking important questions like, you know, who is the real Joe, as we're calling him? Who's the real Joe? You know, because he doesn't want to be tied too strongly to his fame and all the things he owns and all his money. He wants to find the real him, and he's asking himself, you know, these very important questions. And as we've established earlier, you know, all he wants is just a really simple life, a really minimalist life. He just wants to be with his wife and kid. He wants to provide for them. They don't need a fancy mansion. They don't need, you know, like a Bentley or whatever. He just wants a very simple life where all he gets to do is his music. And that's enough for this guy. But it sounds like on taste, he's probably a little bit tempted by materialism, you know, because he's probably making some money from this, unexpectedly even. So he's kind of tempted to, you know, buy fashion-y clothes or buy a cool car or a nice place. But, you know, good for this guy. He wants to know, like, what is the bare minimum life that he can live that will satisfy him. You know, like he doesn't want to need all these things to be happy. He wants to have as little materialism in his life so that he can be happy just by himself, if that makes any sense. So I dig this guy. He's very philosophical, at least on taste. But that's what I have to say about it. So let's check out the next track, which is called Lion in a Coma. So that's Lion in a Coma. And our poor guy, it sounds like the famous musician life is kind of getting to him a little bit. It's kind of stirring him up, not necessarily in a good way. But it sounds like he's found a way to channel that energy that he gets from, you know, playing music and all the people that love his live act and all of that energy and craziness. He's able to channel that energy. He calls it the wilderness in his head, and he channels it into his bedroom life with his wife, right? He says, the wilderness needs to get right out of my clothes and get into my bedroom. So like his way to deal with it seems like, is to channel that energy, that intense energy of playing a live gig and all that rush that he gets, and just move it straight into the bedroom with his wife. That's how he's dealing with it, I guess, So this guy's kind of figured it out a little bit, and good for him, I'm excited for our hero, But that's all I have to say about this song. It's another really interesting song. So let's move on to track 10, which is called No More Runnin'. So that's No More Running, which I could be wrong about this, but it makes me think of something, which is that it sounds like our guy, when he says no more running, what he's talking about is, he does his live show and then he immediately goes right home. He's probably really socially anxious, and he probably is not very happy about being famous. Like we've established, he has this weird kind of like dilemma where he wants to play music, but he also hates the energy and the fame associated with it. So he's been running from it. He plays his gig and then he goes back home and he channels the energy from his gig into romance with his wife, right? But now it seems like maybe he's calmed down just a little bit. He's tackled his anxiety issues and he's not running anymore. Maybe he's enjoying it a little bit, right? He's enjoying the fame and the energy and his fans and all that kind of stuff. It makes me think of that, Again, I could be wrong about that, but I think it makes sense, But anyway, another really cool song, but there's only one more left, Oh geez. So let's talk about it. It's called Brother Sport.
Open up your throat and let the that time go. I know it sucks that daddy's dumb and trying to think of what you want. You have to open up your throat, man. Sports brothers, 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 sports brothers. You got his way, what he said.
So Brother Sport is a very personal song because it sounds like this guy's father was really influential. He was an influential person in his life, at least musically speaking. He probably really supported his son's musical journey. And he's probably thinking about some advice his dad gave him, which I assume his dad was like, you need to be able to find a way to, as he says, you've got to have a real good time. And so by that I mean, or by that he means, you know, you've got to be able to enjoy the things that come with being a musician, with being a little bit famous. Like you've got to stop running, right, as we've mentioned in the previous track. So he needs to just embrace the life, it sounds like. You know, it probably sounds like his dad recognized that his son was ambitious and wanted to be a musician, but he also knew that his son was like a really shy person, probably. You know, that's what it seems. So, you know, this guy is finally embracing the reality of being kind of famous and creating all this energy and buzz. And he's just accepting it finally, it sounds like. You know, he's finally okay with it all. So I like this ending to the album. You know, again, it's a very heartfelt, personal album. I like it a lot. And, you know, the energy and the production and all the sounds in this album are so wild and crazy. It's definitely an experience worth having. And I'm really tempted to give this album a 10, to be honest, just because it sounds so different and the lyrics are great. And you know, having songs like My Girls and Summertime Clothes, you know, like they're just so good, in my opinion. But anyway, so yeah, I'd give this a 10. Let's just say I'll give this a 10. But anyway, that's all I have to say about it, you know, other than maybe this is kind of a cool cover because it kind of tricked your eyes a little bit. You know, it kind of looks like it's moving around. So that's kind of neat. But anyway, as always, if you guys got some thoughts on my commentary or on did you like the album, did you hate the album, stuff like that, feel free to comment. I'll check them out. And again, if you like the video, please like and subscribe. It'd really help out. I like making these, and I'll continue to make them. But again, that's Animal Collective, Merriweather Post Pavilion. Check it out, and have a good one.